windy out. I have a couple disclaimers before we get started, but if you can hear the wind, I'm sorry. Also, the reason my pillows are situated like this is because I've been having so much trouble sleeping, and so this is like the only way I'll sleep is like sleeping like this. And so that's why the pillows are like situated like across here on my bed, and I have like 6 pillows. Anyway, so 2 disclaimers, but anyway, let's get into it. Okay, so we're gonna start with Pride and Prejudice. I need to read this again. I didn't like it. I didn't, and there's nothing wrong with it. I could not finish it. I was like, oh, I hate this so much. I really hate small text, and this has very small text. There's nothing wrong with small text, but the problem is I have a hard time focusing with the small text, and so but overall the plot was cool. It was fine. Now we have This Summer Will Be Different. I loved the setting. I was so excited for this book after reading Mimi at the Lake. I was so excited for this book after reading Mimi at the Lake, and it just flopped. There's nothing horribly wrong with this, but this is a open door romance. Open door to the max. I was not ready. I had to skip so many pages. Like, obviously, there's nothing wrong with liking spice. I don't like it, so I skip it. But half of this book was spice. And then I read 12 to 22. Now, this book was so incredibly cringy. It sounded like it was written by an AI because they were talking about TikTok so much, and the way it was worded was just so weird, and I was like, this is a robot. Now, I really mean no offense to the author, I really don't, but I just couldn't get into it because it was such a robot-y thing. Now, I loved the plot and the idea. I'm a very firm believer that I will have a great adult life, which I hate being a teenager, but I couldn't get into it because of the way that it was worded, because it sounded like an AI was speaking, and it upset me. Okay, hello, welcome. Okay, so we are getting into 4 romance books that I have here, and then a couple more that I have on the list. So let's get started. Okay, so the first book I have on this list is If He Had Been With Me by Lauren Nolan. I loved this book. I love this book so much. It's very sad. It's very, very, very sad. It ends on a very sad cliffhanger. It's so sad, but it is really good. I highly recommend. I read this book. This was the shortest time it took me to read a book ever at that point in time. This was in April. It was like my first big romance book. I loved it so much. So of course, once finishing this, I had to get the sequel. Now, the sequel had just come out, like literally 2 months ago, so I was so happy that it had come out since I didn't have to wait. Like, better than the movies, and then nothing like the movies, I had to wait. But this, I did not have to wait, so I bought it immediately, and it came in, and I spun through this one. I loved it. I did not love it as much as If He Had Been With Me. Like, If He Had Been With Me is like top 10. This, not really. I did like it. I didn't like that there were multiple different points of views, but I did like that we got to see like what happened to the dude and how it happened. So that was good. But other than that, yeah. So this was good. And then I read My Life with the Walter Boys. It's definitely not a top 10, but I did like it. I had watched the show and then I read the book. I really liked The Summer I Turned Pretty. I'm looking at my bookshelf, which is over there, so I just had to look and see what the book was called, The Summer I Turned Pretty series, and then reading the book, it was just an amazing experience. So I thought it was going to be like this. It wasn't exactly like this. The book was a little bit different from the series, which I think is true about all books and movies and series and stuff, but you know, this was okay. I don't love my Life with the Walter Boys as much as I loved The Summer I Turned Pretty, so I think that was also a reason I didn't like it as much, but this was an okay book. And then I've read Meet Me at the Lake. This was the first Carly Fortune book I ever read. I really liked this. I did. I really liked this. This was the shortest amount of time it ever took me to read a book. I read it in 24 hours. So that was so much fun. I was reading on vacation. It was a great book. I really enjoyed it a lot. The first time I read it, I loved it so much. The second time I read it, I did not love it as much. I think the reason why is because I kept going back and forth from one time period to the other time period, and speed reading it, it was okay to follow, but when I didn't speed read it and I read it in a week, it was less easy to follow because I had other things going on in my life, and so that was the only downside. But I really loved this book. Yeah, I really loved it. Okay, now we are gonna go and talk about Betting on You. Now this I just finished a couple days ago, but this is my favorite book written by that person. What's her name? I'll put it on the screen. It was my favorite book written by her. That is a top 5 romance book. I love that book so much. Oh my gosh, I loved it so much. Honestly, I'm thinking about buying it because I would read it again. I really would. I loved it so much. Oh my gosh. I highly recommend Betting on You. If you have not read it, read Betting on You. Yeah, like that was a 9.9 out of 10, honestly. It's been a while, but I've obviously had to read some books so that I could be here and talk to you about them. So yeah, anyway, so I have read 3 books since we talked last, which was 2 weeks ago, I think. Was it 2 weeks ago? No, it was like a week and a half ago. Anyway, so in that time I read 3 books. So the first book I read, these are all audiobooks that I listened to, because I'm currently reading The Fault in Our Stars, but I just haven't had a lot of time to read it, and I've been trying to crank out this knitting project, and so audiobooks are really helpful for that. The first book that I read was The Third Gilmore Girl. Oh my gosh, I love The Third Gilmore Girl. I really recommend it. I recommend it to so many people. Not everybody needs to read it, but if you like autobiographies, you'll love this. And I think I know a lot of people that need to read it. So yeah. Okay, and then the next book I have on this list is The Cheat Sheet. It is definitely a football romance. If you like football romance, I highly recommend it. If you like Friends to Lovers, I highly recommend. I don't know if this is necessary to read, but if you like Friends to Lovers and you like football romance, you'd like this. And then the third book I read was The Rule Book, which is the sequel to The Cheat Sheet. This book, oh my god, it was good. It was good. I mean, The Cheat Sheet and The Rule Book are not my favorite romances of all time, but I liked this one more than The Cheat Sheet because it was fake dating. But overall, I think it was a good book. Again, I don't think I would recommend The Rule Book to anyone. It's not a necessary read, but if you like fake dating, I think you'd probably like this book. Hey, Lyle. It's been about 3 weeks since I talked to you last, so we are going to get back into it and talk again. So this will be the last segment of it, so that's really fun. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so the first book I read was The Temporary Roomie. There was nothing quite wrong with this book. It wasn't my favorite. I don't know. It wasn't my favorite. I listened to it on audiobook. I didn't love any of Sarah Adams's books. Like, they weren't ever my favorite book. But this one was fine. You know what I mean? It was just okay. It was just kind of boring. The next is The Fault in Our Stars. I loved The Fault in Our Stars. Oh my god, this is a must read. You have to read The Fault in Our Stars. Oh my god, the only reason it's not out of a 10 out of 10 read is there were a couple questionable things that the male character said. It wasn't anything wrong. He was just like, there was this one scene, it's not going to spoil the book, so I'm going to tell you. There was this one scene where he was like, wow, I can't believe you wore that dress for me, and she didn't wear it for him. She was just wearing a dress, and it kind of annoyed me because it was like, she wasn't wearing it for him. She was wearing, and the other annoying part about this book is it ended so sadly that I know that that's just the way that some books are, but oh my god, you have to read The Fault in Our Stars. Please do. Then another book I read was Just Add Water by Katie Ledecky. So Katie Ledecky is an Olympic swimmer, if you didn't know that. And as someone who has been really getting into swimming recently, I loved this book. Oh my gosh. It was a great book. The only thing is, like, it felt like an acknowledgement. Now, I love to read the acknowledgements. It's one of my favorite parts of a book, is reading the acknowledgements. But it felt like she was just thanking everyone. And there was only one chapter where there wasn't like a lot of thanking. And I know that was kind of the theme of the book, was like, thank you for letting me get to this place. So I kind of understand, but also, like, I was like, can we talk more about the swimming aspect? So yeah. And then the last book I read was Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This was great. I liked this book a lot. The only thing that kept me from ranking it higher was the fact that it has a lot of spice, like very, very, very spicy. I loved the plot and I loved the story, but by the end, you're gonna have to skip some if you don't want spice. It gets... Anyway, my friend was reading it, and so I had to read it, and I don't usually like fantasy, but this was a good book. It was very long, but it was very good. Hey guys, I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. Have a very, very great rest of your year, and very Merry Christmas, and I'll see you in 2025.